filter
จุนอย่าดูให้พ่อด้วยนะข้างซ้าย
recording เริ่มแล้วใช่ป่ะ
You get it?
Yes, we start now. So welcome to thailandtoday.co on Facebook fan page and tech2thai.com as well as tech2ASEAN. So we are English language news on Thailand and on technology. We are doing a series on Thailand's restarting business amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Today we have a special guest, Khun Chao. Larry is managing director of Chao Group. He's an expert on crisis management. So we're going to talk about reopening Thailand, especially with the department store and retail business starting to reopen this Sunday, May the 17th. So welcome, Larry, to our program.
Thank you very much, Khun Nop. Good to be here.
Yep. So we have a few questions to ask you about restarting business. So as a veteran in management consultant, what is your perspective? Many businesses have to shut down for nearly 2 months now, since March 22nd. And now the government is relaxing the lockdown for the first time, this time for the retail business department store. So what is your perspective on restarting Thailand in?
Okay. Yeah, Khun Nop, let me just start off by saying, you know, as an organization change professional, this is probably the greatest disruption that I've ever seen, as I'm sure, but it also presents the absolute greatest opportunity for organization change. And that means really, you know, rethinking the way you do business, whether you're a small retail shop or whether you're a corporation, a global corporation, it doesn't matter. It presents a great opportunity. I think for the retailer, the small retailer, I mean, this is a very tough moment because for the last few months, unless you've done a lot of e-commerce, you've slowed, and a lot of your revenue, your cash flow has been draining, yet you still have to pay the expenses. So, you know, if I'm a retailer opening up next week, let's say Sunday they open, the first thing I'm concerned about is, you know, picking that low-hanging fruit, that revenue. I really want to figure out a way of winning back my loyal consumers. I need that cash flow to start just to make the transition from being closed to open.
So Central Department Store Group, the mall group, and others, they are the major players. They are very enthusiastic about reopening. And we heard that the mall group, for instance, they said they have a total of 100 measures to make sure that customers are safe, feel safe amid this pandemic. So in your opinion, how they have to manage the customer expectation?
Yeah. You know, I mean, the safety is interesting is, you know, I live at Chitlom, so my go-to supermarket is Central Chitlom, and they've been open this time. And it's interesting because they have the right practices in place. They take your temperature when you walk in and go shopping. They have marks on the floor so that you maintain 1.5 meters distance between. And the shop was crowded. The only time it was crowded was when they removed the ban on alcohol, and then it was a bit crowded. But they already have the, I think, protocol in place to ensure safety of their customers. And I'm sure that the mall group and the other groups that will open will also have these in place. I expect that the consumers are probably used to it because unless they do all their online shopping or e-commerce, they've probably gone into the grocery store. They probably know how to behave. They're going to expect to see certain things. They're going to expect to see the temperature check. They'll expect to see the gel. So you'll get gel when you enter the store, and also the social distancing. So I think the transition should be very good. I would expect that it would be a cautious but enthusiastic opening where you're going to have a lot of people going out, a lot of people experimenting. And it should be a good day if they do open the malls on Sunday. People should be confident.
Yeah. I heard that the mall, for instance, they expect to maybe start with only 50% of their capacity in terms of head count of customer. You think that makes sense for this first stage of opening?
Yeah, I really do. I think that it's good to be cautious at first and see how people react to this, rather than to have, you know, the doors open and, you know, as if it's a sale and have people pouring in. I think the worst thing that can happen is you could scare people. So a lot of people come in and a lot of people get scared, and even worse, they get sick. So I would say starting with 50%, I would say in any case, a gradual opening and a testing of what's working and what's not working, and most importantly, how consumers and customers are responding is important. And from that, you can move on and decide how fast you scale up to a full opening.
So it's going to be a new normal for retailing, especially in department store, shopping center. They're going to, like if you are a fashion store, you're supposed to serve your customer one by one. So if you have a queue, you have to wait and you have to keep distance among the customer who are waiting. So how you imagine the business provider will respond to this requirement?
Well, I think it's going to be an important one on how to schedule people and making sure you stay in contact with people, because you don't want people waiting in a long line to go into your store. I certainly wouldn't do that. What I would like to do is, I think in the beginning, maybe have scheduled appointments. I know that, you know, I go to a tailor right now, and normally I would go to the tailor, just walk into his shop, but now I call him first and make sure that I can get an appointment so that I don't have to wait in line. So if I was a business person, I mean, it depends on the business, but if I'm a retailer, I would probably want to try to get my customers their phone numbers, find out when I can schedule things that are convenient for them. If in fact it's the type of business where I need to spend a lot of time with my customers. If it's a pharmacy, maybe it's different. I know pharmacies have been open, Kunop, so that we shouldn't a huge increase in people coming in. I would probably guess, again, I don't know, when it does open, that you may not see lines of people because the demand just won't be there. Again, people will be cautious. They'll be enthusiastic, but cautious. So it may not be a problem early on to have people waiting in line outside of your store.
So even I see some videotape, they are preparing for reopening. So like one of the biggest department store, if you want to try your new clothes or your new shirt, once you take a couple of them into the fitting room, and when you are done with those, and suppose you don't buy all of them, the rest will have to be cleaned by the sales clerk. So that's one thing that to ensure that people, consumer are safe.
Yeah, you know, well, all those protocols, and again, it depends on your business. So in the case of, let's say, trying on clothes and things, I mean, for sure, you're going to want to understand what the government is saying is necessary to do to protect the safety of people. And then you're going to have to improvise and put into place practices that give people the safety or the perception of safety that, you know, trying on clothes is not going to infect them with the disease. So I would be very, very careful in looking at all the touch points of my consumer coming in the store and how they interact with me, to make sure that whatever they do, they feel reassured that we are, if I'm the business owner, protecting them as the first priority.
So three things: most important, wearing your mask as a customer and also as a staff. Second thing, that keeping the distance, 1.5 meter to 2 meter. And the third thing is washing your hands, cleaning your hand with, you know, alcohol gels. That's the three basic steps for everyone.
Yeah, again, let me just add, if you're the business owner, I would even add making sure that you clean things after they're tried on, or, you know, if you're a restaurant, that you sanitize, or you make sure that after the person is left that you clean the tables, because again, it's just this additional effort and attention you pay attention to, because that's what's on people's minds and that's what's important.
So I think every retailer would be happy to reopen their shops, their establishments, but it's better than, you know, no revenue, zero revenue. But for sure, the new normal means the additional costs and expenses. How you look forward to this new factor in retail?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, short term. I mean, if you think about it, Kunop, it's this emerging thing that's going to happen on Sunday for the next few weeks or months forward. How you build that customer confidence to want to do business with you again. Now, a lot of things may also have changed. I mean, again, it depends on your business, but a lot of people have not only done shopping, and let's say if it's grocery shopping, maybe they didn't change their behavior. But if it's something else where the stores were in fact closed, maybe they got their products online, e-commerce. So you're going to have to figure out your customers and what they've been doing over the past, 6 weeks to understand whether they're going to change to their old behaviors or whether they actually prefer doing business with you remotely. Right? In my opinion, I think, when you open the malls up, people are going to run to the malls, not in masses, but they'll come back because people go to the malls because it's enjoyable. So they'll be cautious, but they'll go there. And a lot of them may resume shopping in stores. But I think as a business, it's important for you to check and make sure you understand how your customers' behavior is changing so that you can figure out how to serve them more effectively. The second thing I think that's really important, that's unknown, is the demand, how demand is going to change. We don't know, Nophakhun, we don't know whether there's going to be a spike, whether people are going to be conservative, whether all of a sudden when you open them, you have a huge demand. If I'm a retailer, a business person, I've got to be ready to move fast. I've got to be ready to restock. I've got to be ready to manage my costs so that I can address this changing demand. At this point, nobody knows. People are guessing. So if I'm a retailer, the best way for me is to make sure my retailing environment is safe, make sure my customers are happy to visit me, make sure I understand their shopping patterns, whether they prefer actually to buy from home or whether they really want to come back into the store. And then finally, I've got to be really alert as to how that demand is going to change over the next few weeks or months, because nobody knows. And you open it up, it could go skyrocketing in 1 week, and then the next week it could go down. But you have got to be able to manage that fluctuation, which is something, Kunop, that people didn't do as frequently as they're going to have to do now.
So that the demand side. But I think one of the most important thing is the physical retailing, department store, shopping center. The biggest advantage is a customer experience. How you're going to make the experience enjoyable, as you said, how to make the experience safe, and how to make your customer perceive favorable to go to your establishment. Is that the main point at this time for you?
I think, again, a very good point. But if you think about the customer coming into your store for the first time, the very first time, the thing that's not going to be on their mind is how they're going to be entertained. They first come into the store, whether it's macro or central, the first thing that's going to be on their mind is it safe? And once you figure out, is it safe? Do you have what we need? Is it fresh? Or is it, been hanging around for like 6 months? But people, I think, are exploring more rather than expecting that you're going to all of a sudden come up with a full-blown entertainment package that they can enjoy. And in fact, if you do, what you might discover is that they don't want to participate because it's not safe. They feel that it's not safe. So if I'm a retailer with, let's say, in macro, the first thing I want to do is see how people react to the store opening. I would try to get as much feedback as possible on their experience and what they're buying, why they're buying. And I'd ask them what would they like to see differently, if anything. But again, this is, as I mentioned in the very beginning, a tremendous opportunity for companies, retailing, hotels, businesses to make drastic changes that they should have changed. And the bigger the business, the more important this is, because half of the problem of big companies operating before the crisis was the slowness to change. And the reason that they were having so much trouble is because the small shops were so agile. They were able to meet this customer demand. Now we start this Sunday, all right? Everybody goes back to zero. We're starting, the stores are all opening. Everybody's at the waiting line. If I'm a retailer, I want to make sure I really understand my customer's journey from the moment he's trying to research the types of things he wants to buy till he purchases, and then if he wants to exchange. but I really want to know how he's changing. I really want to understand demand.
But for fashion products, which are going to be a pent-up demand, because you and me and our audience have not shopped for new coat for nearly 2 months. So maybe some of us need new ones. This kind of thing, and as you said, many do the online shopping over the past 6 weeks. So they're going to compare the online experience with the physical shopping experience. So is that the thing that the retailer will have to pay a lot of attention to, how to differentiate or how they're going to synergize both retail channels?
Well, you would be buying the coat, could not, because you've got much more money than me. I'd be saving it. But I think absolutely. I mean, even before the crisis, you had this problem. You had the online, and then you also had the in-store experience. And people did different things for different reasons. Many people might check online and try to get the best price and look around and then buy something. Other people might, check in the store. If it's a pair of shoes, try them on, and then go online to try to get a better price. So you have this tension, which is going to happen. I think, again, if I'm a retailer, I really want to know what the role of both my channels are, for example, online or in store, so that I understand what type of customer I'm trying to cater to that come into my store versus the ones online. Maybe they're different, but I really should understand the different buying needs. Let's take buying cars, for example. All right, so the dealerships for the past 6 weeks have been empty, because people just haven't been in the mood to buy cars. But that doesn't mean they don't need a car. They still need a car. And now in most cases, they have money saved up, and the crisis has been awful. And a lot of people have been, out of work and not having enough money. But in cases of cars, they still probably have money. Many people still have enough money to buy a car. So how are you going to get people to come into your dealership to buy the car, or are you going to do it online? If I was a dealership, I would know who all these customers are who are interested in my cars, at least the ones who have come in before. I would call them up and I would bring the car to them. I would actually take the car to their house or their condo, and I would sell there. So I think this is a great opportunity to be creative. There are no rules now. And I think you've got to be able to be creative and try things. And guess what? In many cases, it's not going to work. But for those companies that want to be successful at the end of the day, they are the ones who are going to try new things. And those who do not are just not going to get ahead. And therefore, I think whether you're doing online shopping or offline, know your segments, know your customers as to why they do online shopping or why they come in your store, and then make sure you cater to them, right? And of course, you're going to have people buying on. I mean, it happens everywhere. People are trying to get the best price. But believe me, you provide a great experience for your customer who wants a great experience in your store. And you know what? They'll pay a little extra for it. They'll pay a little extra.
So there's no limit to your imagination, how you're going to combine different ways and channels to sell your stuff to your customer, especially in the midst of this the pandemic, right? So yeah. I would say you mentioned a few times about caution. Consumer returning to department store, shopping center in Thailand will be cautious, especially regarding their personal health, regarding their hygiene. So that's the first thing that every retailer will have to pay the most attention to, about hygiene and personal health protection. Actually, not only for the customer, but also their employees, the staff who return to work.
Each other, absolutely.
Before we move to the hospitality, the hotel industry, I would like to ask you, looking forward, how Thailand tourism hospitality going to restart. Okay, what scenario you think likely at this time?
Okay, so you asked me to look into the crystal ball the last time I spoke. I think I said this would be resolved about April. I'm a bit short. I was a bit early yet. Again, here's another a question that's very uncertain. I really think, I wish the virus, you could predict it. You can. I think a lot depends on whether there's a vaccine or whether people feel safe and traveling, because a lot of the hospitality industry here, as you know, is from tourism and from tourism overseas. So I guess a lot of what happens in the future depends on how, whether we can find a vaccine, how confident people are to travel. I can tell you how I personally feel. But there are some big challenges ahead for the hospitality industry. However, there are some huge opportunities too. There are a lot of hotels here. And again, it is as tough as the crisis is, it's been tough on everybody. And the ones who come out ahead are going to be the ones who look at this as an opportunity and say, look, what is it that we do now today in our hotel or our retail shop that we can do better than anybody? How can I leapfrog the competition? How can I do something that I wouldn't do day to day because I'm constantly busy? People are constantly busy day to day. They always say, well, I don't have time. I'm going to delay it. Then they try something to have a big change. They do it, but then the day-to-day operation takes over and every big idea is put on the back burner and never happens. Here we are. We have no huge rush of operations. This is a great opportunity for businesses to step back, think about what do they do better than anybody? How can they leapfrog the competition? That's number one. Number two, hotels. There must be hundreds of things they do that they should not be doing, but they do them just out of force of habit. There's probably hundreds of things and services that they provide guests that guests don't care about anymore. Maybe, these are protocols that were relevant 10 years ago. Look at them. Find out exactly what are the things that you should stop doing so that you can be competitive and relevant to the consumers when they all return. You hear about certain countries, being safe and having no new infections. And again, the clock starts when the government decides to open the country and, ban the quarantine. So you don't have any 14-day quarantine. Then you're going to have a flow of people back and forth. So between now and when that happens, and probably not over the next month, this is a great time to be extremely active with your teams to make sure that you're doing what's very best to be prepared. So when things do come back, when they do, you will be ahead of the game.
So you mentioned removing things that your guests, your customer may not want anymore. They might 10 years ago, but not now. For example, like what from your head?
Oh, well, just off the top of my head, I can tell you just a simple one. When I check in, I want to check in. I don't want to spend 5 minutes, talking to the hotel people about how nice it is, how I feel. Do I need as a hotel guest, as a business traveler, to have like a flower and some chocolate and mints? No. Is it important for me to have certain things that as a business traveler, I wouldn't have had, I don't have because the hotel still thinks I'm some tourist from 25 years ago, like, all this. I'm very expedient traveler now. So all the things that require time, I would have no value for. I want to get in and out. I want to do what I need to do. Are hotels prepared for that? I don't know. Do they need to figure out how to do it better? Absolutely. They still need to cater to the leisure traveler, but they also need to think about what to stop doing in order to attract me. Their loyalty program. Many hotels and airlines have loyalty programs. They are so outdated. I don't want to accumulate a lot of points and then at the end of the year lose them. I don't want to have a loyalty program where I collect hundreds of thousands of points by being a loyal customer or guest, and then find out that 90% of the times I want to use them are blocked out or blacked out dates. So the hotels and the airlines have a great opportunity to think about the traveler because the traveler has not stayed the same. And I think if they're going to be smart, they're going to really be able to take the feedback and make major changes in operations and the way they do business so that they come out of the crisis ahead, a fresh look for the customers, and a reason for me to do business with them.
Yeah, so it's going to be low touch like in the retail industry, right? Hotel, you have less or minimum touch for the customer for the benefit of hygiene.
Yeah, and I think this goes counter to maybe some of the culture, hotel hospitality culture, which is a lot about the personalized service. So, no touching, right? I mean, not the physical touching, but emotional touching and the emotional connection with the guests. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to be a lot less like that. You'll have to change your protocols. what success looks like is going to be very different. When I check out of a hotel, I don't want to touch 30 things. I'd rather go to my room without touching anything if I can, right? And I like to know that my food is clean rather than looks nice. So, I mean, it should look delicious, but these are little things that they can do. And I suspect that they haven't been doing them. I suspect that for the most part, businesses have been shut, and for a good reason. I mean, you can't make a lot of money if you're paying a lot of fixed costs. So I think, again, this month, or let's say, I don't know, maybe till the fall, is a great opportunity for businesses to really rethink about the things that they do.
So they have time to prepare for the near future, especially after the Thai government, the tourism authority is suggesting that maybe China, they announced that China and South Korea are sort of being removed from the list of countries that Thailand designated as having a lot of infection from COVID-19. So basically, it's possible that in the near future, Thailand will welcome, first of all, the Chinese and the South Korean tourists, even though in the news, the South Korean have the new wave of infections.
You know, I hope so. I hope from China, from South Korea, and from Hong Kong. People have got to get over the stigma, of course, of masses of people. And I think what they might need to think about is how many guests they have each time in the hotel. So rather than huge groups of tourist groups coming in the hundreds, maybe think about the perception of the other customers that you have. For example, if you take a hotel, what do the people who live in Bangkok, what do they think about that? What do other guests think about seeing hordes of people coming in? So welcome them with open arms, but be sensible about how many people you take at one time, because it's the perception that you're not being safe, and that perception goes a long way. I think it's a great opportunity, Kunop, that Thailand opens up, that if this happens, that Hong Kong and China, South Korea, etc. This is a tremendous opportunity for the governments and the countries to stimulate the economies, and not to look down and say the USA is so slow and Europe is slow. It is what it is, right? The world is moving at a certain pace, and it just so happens that because of certain things, we might be able to emerge sooner from this crisis as a region than the USA and Europe. And I'd be, if I'm a business person, I would be foolish not to look at this as an opportunity to say, so how do we restart? I mean, and as you know, many years ago, there was word around talking about the sufficiency economy. And of course, we know that in Thailand, much of our business is through exporting. Absolutely true. Yet there is so much we can do within the country between ourselves to restart things. The government, of course, has a role, but there are some creative ideas that we should think about. How do we restart demand? As you said, you've been cooped up for 6 weeks. You still need the new jacket, right? Now, are you going to go off and buy a designer one from Europe, or is there a sensible one you could buy from Hong Kong? And here is an opportunity where people can just really take some chances, be aggressive, and even do a promotion to try to create new buying behaviors. Again, when you have a crisis like that is so disruptive, people are disoriented, all right? They are open to new ideas. Now is the time to think sensibly about things you can test and try them. If they don't work, it doesn't matter, right? If they do work, you're ahead of the game.
So Larry, you're quite familiar with the hotel industry. How soon you think Thailand can reopen from your crystal ball?
You mean the country reopen for tourists?
Yeah, hotels, yeah, tourists.
All right, that's an easy one. I mean, for me, I can tell you that one of the hotels that I work closely with is the Anantara Hotel. The hotel has been open the entire time of the crisis because they have long-term guests there who stay there, all the time. So they have to stay open. They also open a few of the restaurants so that people can come in and they can order out and bring it home with them. They have been doing this for the past 6 to 8 weeks. I think they're the only 5-star hotel that had people staying in there that had to. They are ready.
Reopen, you're saying?
They're not real. There's no need to reopen. They're open already.
Yeah,
so,
they were shut down.
They were not shut down.
Yeah.
Whereas the other hotels next to them, the Grand Hyatt Erewhon and on the other side, St. Regis Hotel, they had signs on them. They were absolutely dark. So for having them to restart, it may take a couple of weeks for these hotels that closed. For a hotel like the Anantara, we actually had a pilot test workshop with them. So we tested some of the protocols they had. And in fact, I tested the way people can get together and what businesses in general need to do to restart. Because it's not just a question of understanding the impact of the new normal on your business. It's also a question of taking things that you learned from the last 6 weeks that worked really well and embedding them in your daily practices when things go back to normal. So we had this workshop about a week ago in the Anantara testing these things. Now there's about 40% of the Anantara staff are back at work. Some of them are still working at home. But if you were to walk in the door today and go to the restaurants, you will see that they are operating at 50% for social distancing. You will also see that they have all the protocols in place to serve people the meals. You will see if you are checking in as a guest, let's say you're coming in from Chiang Mai to stay at the Anantara, that they have a plexiglass screen that will protect you from the person checking you in. So when you walk into this hotel, they are absolutely ready to do business with you. And more importantly, they have the right safety protocols. They know what works and what doesn't work, which is extremely reassuring. Now, the other hotels, when will they get up to speed? I hope soon. I hope the country opens up because, you know, we welcome those who come in and want to enjoy Thailand in a safe way.
So you already said the Anandra Hotel have the new normal already. So they are ready to welcome foreign tourists anytime.
Absolutely. They have the product ready. They have the services ready. They have the safety ready. And again, when I was doing a workshop with them, it was with the team, this test, they had a good chance to take a look at the things that they needed to do to modernize their image without losing their brand equity, right? So you're going to get a new experience. You're also going to get a staff that's trained up so that, you know, they're not going to feel uncomfortable or worse, make the guest feel uncomfortable by not knowing what to do. So I think training and experience matter, and having a head start of a month is important for people, the guests, to see, because it translates into a better experience for them, whether you're enjoying dining or whether you're staying there as somebody coming in from overseas.
So really, we're running out of time. So my last question will be your advice for retail. We talk about department store, we talk about hotel, hospitality. Your advice for the new normal, please.
For who? Giving the advice to the business people?
For the business people to adapt to the new normal.
Okay. All right. You know, again, to adapt to the new normal, a lot has happened. You've got to take stock. You have to step back and think about all these things that happened to understand what you want to adapt and change, understand how people need to work together. To me, Khun Nop, one of the biggest things about this crisis is that people have had to work at a high urgency level, where change happened every day. It used to be where you could plan your sales once a month. Now you got to do it like on a daily basis. You have to know how your product is moving. I think what businesses can really learn in the new normal is how to operate with agility, how to get people to make decisions faster, and how to take ideas and make them happen rather than to be led by bureaucracy, processes, and all the things that prevent operations from being agile and being successful. It is absolutely a new world. And the new world, started off by this crisis, is the world of change. And either you're going to be able to adapt and understand it, or you're going to suffer. So now is the time to do that. Step back, assess the situation, take what's working, embed it, and the things that aren't working, stop doing them. But start thinking and stop being led by processes, history, and bureaucracy. The customer and the markets lead today. Okay.
Thank you, Larry, for joining our program. And see you again soon. Thank you very much. And have to say goodbye to our audience and Larry. Bye-bye again.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.